It's *6. I just want to thank you, Sandra, for being here. What a, I think this call is probably one of the best calls that we can have. This is the first call in a series of calls. We're going to do a more advanced Ask the Expert call discussion in the fall. But Sandra Long from Post Road Consulting, she also works with us at Small Business Connecticut. She is by far one of the true experts on the topic of LinkedIn. So thank you so much, Sandra, for being on the call today.
Happy to be here. Love the topic.
So, Sandra, welcome. And let's just maybe start off today by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you started using LinkedIn.
Well, absolutely. Great to be here again to talk with everybody in Small Business Connecticut. Love the call format. And I started LinkedIn actually in 2005. And at that time, so I'm really an early adopter. At that time, LinkedIn was really much more of a career site than it is now. It's still obviously a major career site, but it's so much more helping businesses and people that are employed, whether they're in small businesses or in large companies or consultants, find that their personal profile is so important for their branding and for their sales efforts. And so really everybody in the business world now really needs to have a really top-notch LinkedIn personal profile. And what we're going to talk about today is the personal profile and the company page. But I do, as far as my background, I was in corporate America using LinkedIn for sales myself in a B2B sales environment. And then a year and a half ago, I started my company, Post Road Consulting. So I do teach LinkedIn from various parts of the state, and I do that in some evening classes, some daytime classes. I also work with companies. They hire me to come in and work with sales teams where I teach sales prospecting using LinkedIn, work with marketing teams on using the company page so that they can maximize their relationships with their customers, optimize prospecting and customer relationships. So it's a lot of fun. So I speak and teach and blog and ready to get going on this and really looking forward to August 5th. And today will be, as Colleen said, we're going to be doing 2 classes on the phone. This one is about the profile on the company page. And then in the fall, we're going to talk about networking and sort of some advanced topics, publishing and networking.
So, I would love for you to start on the personal profile because I know in Small Business Connecticut, that is where I get 90% of my leads. People find me just through that personal page, and it's a really important page for me. And I know that mine isn't the best, but I would love to, let's talk. What about that personal profile? What's important? Why is it important to have one?
Well, just like you said, people are searching for people. Just, you think about what you search for. Many people are very familiar with Google search. I mean, you could be searched by what you're known for. You could be searched for your name. So if in Google, if someone puts your name in, most likely, if your profile is optimized, your LinkedIn profile should come up at the top of that. Depending, and of course, if your name is unique, it will be the LinkedIn profile. So your name, Colleen, I'd have to go and Google you. If you Google your name, your Colleen Ferrary LinkedIn profile would come up. For me, for Sandra Long, there's hundreds of people that are on LinkedIn with my name, but still the LinkedIn, all the profiles come up. So when people are searching, whether it's on Google or LinkedIn, and people, I can tell you nowadays, people are looking for people on LinkedIn. There's so many people are used to using it that just using that search function to either find expertise, so maybe I'm looking for small business expertise, Colleen, and your name would come up, or else I'm putting your name, Colleen Ferrary, in. And so either way, there's a lot of different ways you can search. You can do it, tie it into geography. So if you're looking for an expert, and especially, think about it, people want to work with people that they have some connection with. So if I'm looking for a small business expert, and I put small business, and I maybe I put the Hartford zip code in, I might see people that I am first level connected with, or I might see people that are second level connections, and I'm going to probably check them out before I hire them. Let's say I'm interested in you, Colleen. I'm probably going to say, well, who are the people that are connected that know Colleen? And I'm going to maybe call them and say, I'm interested in what Colleen offers. Can you tell me about Colleen? So it really gives you that chance to check.
I'm sorry to tell you that I'm not available. I love my job. Sorry.
Well, so you're asking about why it's important. So the main thing is for search. And if people are going to meet you, let's say you're going to have a meeting, whether it's a sales meeting or an interview or whatever it is, they're going to look at your profile before you come in, and then they're probably also going to connect with you after you've been there. So it's really just become par for the course. This is par for the course, right?
That's awesome. It's funny because I think I've heard so many people just in the last week tell me that they've actually gotten job offers because of their LinkedIn profile, that people have randomly connected with them. And, I thought, and it's very relevant. If you do any international business at all, it is a treasure trove for that right now for whatever reason. So
well, it is.
Let's start.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, one thing I was going to add, Colleen, the visibility and credibility. So sometimes people, let's say you've got 3 proposals in front of you, and you're going to check out the company, you're going to check out the company website, and you're going to look at the people that made that proposal to you. And you're going to look and see, what do I have in common? Where do they go to school? What are their interests? What are their passions? What are their recommendations? I mean, all that's going to play into making a decision of who you're going to hire or who you're going to partner with. So
let's just kind of start with, my nemesis, the headshot. And Cynthia McIntyre, I am definitely getting in line for her because she just does amazing headshots. But why is that headshot so important? Well, you really want to love your headshot. I have this conversation every day with people. And, because, the LinkedIn profile is looked at so often, and when you're working on LinkedIn, you want people to look at your profile. The whole idea of being online is you want people to look at you. That means they're interested in you. And if you don't love your photo, or if you don't have a photo, first of all, it makes it harder for people to remember who you are. Maybe you met them 3 weeks ago, and they're not really sure, who was this John person that's connecting with me? They want to, people are more likely to connect, more likely to accept your connections. And also, if you're meeting someone, let's say you're going to a networking meeting, and you've got a name of person that you're meeting, and you've done an email or an in-mail, you need to see the photo of who you're going to be meeting. It's just a hugely credible part of your profile. Also, sometimes people, that's all they look at, the picture and the headline. We hope that everybody reads the whole profile, but oftentimes that's not the case. Okay, my pet peeve, this whole recent photo, so many photos are just so outdated on there, and I meet the person, and I go back and look at this photo, and I'm like, I don't think this is the person I met. I start second-guessing myself. Yeah, so many times photos aren't recent. It's really important to keep them up to date so that when people are meeting you, they will recognize you. So if you've changed a lot, and we all do, maybe every 5 years get a new headshot. And get a professional headshot. You want to love it. What are the other important elements of a LinkedIn profile? Well, okay. So when I think about a profile, I always tell my classes to think about the audiences who are going to be looking at your profile, whether it's customers, prospects, coworkers, maybe prior coworkers. So you think about all that, and you want your profile to be friendly, customer friendly, and search friendly. So you want to be found for your specific keywords, right? And that's how you're being found, probably, Colleen, both by your name and by keywords. And there's a headline. The headline's a great opportunity. The headline is something that you can craft. A lot of people just use the default. They just take their latest experience, and LinkedIn populates the field. But in fact, the headline is very important, and you can create your own headline and use the proper words that you want to be found for. A summary is hugely important, which I see a lot of people just ignore it. And it's your chance to tell your story. And it shouldn't be just a repeat of the rest of your profile. It should kind of bring you to life a little bit. So when we do the class in August, I'll have examples of some really good summaries that we'll share with people. And then, of course, LinkedIn looks for the profile to be fully complete. In order for it to be optimized and more viewable and more searchable, you really want to have it complete. So you want all the sections filled out, experience, education, all of that. And I love to see links to Twitter, links to a website,
The new opportunities are fantastic with rich media, having YouTube, a YouTube video connected to your profile or SlideShare. And really all the other sections I think are so valuable. You have to think about what is it about you that you want to highlight. Is it projects? Is it volunteering, publications? Do you have a patent or a certification? Do you belong to organizations? All those things are important and add to your credibility. And you make this personalized. It's not the same as just taking a resume and putting it up online. You really want to think through. LinkedIn gives you so many opportunities to look good. So those are just some of the things we'll be working on August 5th. And, customizing your URL. I love to do that with people too, because you want to, it's kind of important. You can then use your, very attractive URL on your emails and on your correspondence. So it takes work usually, and you want to keep your profile up to date. So if you change positions or you're adding accomplishments, you want to make sure you keep your profile up to date on a regular basis.
I think there's I love that, customized URLs. And I also, that referral piece is so important too, isn't it? I think you talked about it a little bit before, but the difference between endorsements and referrals.
Yeah, well, it's called recommendations and endorsements.
Sorry.
Right. No, that's okay.
This is why I'm not a LinkedIn expert.
Oh, no, that's okay. So a recommendation is what they came out with. I want to say it was around 2007 they added that, and it's sort of, most people know it forever, and it's a written recommendation. Those are the most important to have. And endorsements they came out with about 2.5 years ago, and that's where you pick your skills, and people endorse you for those skills, or if you don't pick them, people will pick them for you. It's very important to pick the skills and show the skills that you want to be known for. If you've changed, and let's say you were, known doing something, for the past 10 years, and now you've taken a turn of where you're focusing, you should look at those skills and make sure they reflect what you want to show and what you want to be known for. Because you don't have to, you can delete them if you're not interested in showing them. And you can have up to 50 endorsements, but I show 10 on mine, and I want to, because I don't want to get lost in so many endorsements. I want to just have the 10 that I want to be known for, and so all of that helps your profile too. And we're going to talk in the next class, in the next talk in the fall, quite a bit about recommendations, how to get them, how to ask for them, when to ask for them, and endorsements. And there's a lot of strategy around all of that, and not only getting them but giving them. So that will be a big topic of our conversation.
That's awesome. So what about, let's switch gears a little to the LinkedIn company page.
Sure.
Why is that important?
Well, first, let me just say that some people, it's funny, some people don't realize that there's company pages. I've had that comment made to me the last couple of weeks. So there's your personal profile page, and then there's what's called a company page. And a company page describes your company. You can have your logo and your banner. You link to your websites, and your employees also link to that page. So that page can do status updates, and when you do status updates on a page, the status updates stay there. And LinkedIn, you used to, when on your personal page, it used to be, they changed it about a year ago or maybe 6 months ago. If you did a status update, you could see that on your profile, and now they took that away. But with company pages, it's still there. So you can go onto a company page and scroll down and see what they've been talking about for the past month or two. It also gives you analytics, and you can advertise. So there's a lot of reasons why you might be interested in having a company page. One of the big things is it's high on Google search, which is really fantastic. So if you have a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page, if both of them are optimized, most likely the LinkedIn page will show higher on the Google search. I just did that on my company page for Post Road Consulting. When I put Post Road Consulting in Google, my website comes first, then my LinkedIn company page, then my Facebook page. So LinkedIn has a lot of power on Google. So that company page is important. I would call it digital real estate. You want to use it. And, of course, the great thing is it's no charge to have a company page. Like a personal profile, it gives your company credibility and visibility and all those other good things I just mentioned. So it's I think it's a great feature of LinkedIn.
How do you get followers on a LinkedIn company page?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, because it is more challenging than Facebook. Because with Facebook, you can invite your friends much easily. I mean, you can invite your friends on LinkedIn too, but Facebook makes it a little bit easier to do. So the other thing about LinkedIn, it's not like you're inviting someone to connect. With a personal page. You invite them and they invite you. With a company page, someone has to follow you. So in that way, it's kind of like Google Plus or Twitter. The person is electing to follow you. So as far as how to get followers, first of all, ask your customers, ask people that your colleagues, to follow you, your employees, of course. And if your employees set up their page properly, they should automatically be followers. You can send an in-mail request. Let's say you meet somebody in a networking event, and they want to connect with you on LinkedIn. So they connect with you. Then you can send them a thank you and say, thank you very much for connecting with me. And by the way, I hope you'll follow my company page. And you can kind of nicely remind them about that. I like to mention my LinkedIn company page, everywhere, on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. I, like to put a link at the bottom of my email. I like to put a link at my website. I put a link on my LinkedIn profile. So on my personal profile, I'll say, click through here to get to my LinkedIn company page. And then, last but not least, you want to post interesting content, helpful content, and most of the time trying to post things that are just helpful tips, industry pieces, not just always pushing sales or product. So it takes a little work, but it's very nice to have followers. What I like to do is, post things from the LinkedIn company page and then share it with my personal page. It's pretty powerful.
So how do I find company pages that I might want to follow?
Okay, great question from whoever emailed that, because it's a good strategy to follow your customer pages, your prospects pages, your colleagues, people that you want to, that you're interested in doing business with, or partners. So, that way you'll get their updates and their news. So what you do on the upper search bar, there's a white search bar at the very upper top part of your LinkedIn homepage. Put the company name in there. It should come up, and if not, there's a drop down on the left which says companies. So, I'd love to have you follow Small Business Connecticut. So just put in Small Business Connecticut, spell it all the way out, Small Business Connecticut. You can do the drop down companies and follow the Small Business Connecticut page, which we just set up. So that's how you do it. It's very, very simple.
Awesome. The next question is a little embarrassing. I'm going to say it, but I'm going to read it just as it's written. Colleen keeps telling me to leverage groups to join, to post my blogs and get involved and bring awareness to my company. What does that mean?
Okay, so you're asking about groups?
Oh yeah, apparently. And I am so sorry to the person who said this. Apparently, I've been telling them to join groups and to leverage groups to join, because I really believe that when you get involved with groups, it's really good. Like, you start building relationships with people, you become top contributors, things like that, and it really has helped me. I know with blog posting. But talk about.
So LinkedIn groups are wonderful, and that's going to be part of the advanced discussion in fall. But let me give you a preview. So with groups, you want to have a strategy of what you're trying to achieve with groups. You can belong to, they said up to 50, but I believe I belong to 51, so I think they might have just changed that. But I probably have some in there that I need to eliminate, because it's better to be focused on just the few that you're going to actually be active on. So with groups, there are open groups and closed groups. First of all, you need to know that. And you need to know that every group has rules and has a manager. So it's a manager of a group or owner of a group is a person. It's not LinkedIn. It's somebody who's started that group. So it's a good idea to understand, what that group strategy is before you even decide to join it. And once you know the group strategy, decide, does your strategy fit in with that group? So groups are a great way to network. I've met people that I work with. I've made real life person relationships through groups, And, so I think the first thing is, from your industry, figure out what types of groups would be the most helpful. Obviously, you want to think about alumni groups from your college. Those are often quite good. And you want to think if there's some geographical groups that are connected to where you're located, and industry groups. Industry groups are very good. And again, remember, you look at who owns the group and what the rules are, because you need to follow the rules in order to be accepted into the group and to be able to post. So what your friend was saying, Colleen, was they weren't sure how to find them. So if you go, you can find groups. Again, that drop down I mentioned, there's a couple ways you can find groups, but there's the drop down on the top next to the left, next to that white bar, the search bar on the top. You can do the drop down and click on groups, and you can start entering keywords. So enter if you're if you're into social media, you can enter social media, whatever your keywords are for your industry, and find do a search process, right? There's other ways you can find the groups, and once you do a little search and see look at what they're talking about to see if it's something that's interesting to you. Some of the groups are very well run; they have really good content, and some of them people are just posting ads up. So you really want to be careful when you apply for a group. If it's an open group, sometimes you'll just apply and you'll be immediately put into the group. And if it's a closed group, they'll look you over. They'll look at your headshot and they'll look at your profile and they'll look at what business you're in to make sure that you're a match for the group. So there's a lot of different things about groups, and we'll be talking more about that actually on August 5th and in the fall. But the idea of posting blogs to that is good, but you have to know what you're doing, because you want to make sure that group, that's what they do, that's the conduct of what they do, that people are sharing blog posts and expertise. And then if they are, and it's your category, it's a very effective way of being noticed. The top contributors are, if it's an active group, the top contributors are highlighted on the upper right-hand side of the group.
Awesome. A lot of groups are about discussion too. They're really set up just for the primary purpose to discuss things. Correct? Yeah, there's a discussion. Right. There's a discussion tab. There's a promotion tab. So I'm a group manager for a couple of groups, and so what happens is when someone posts something, the manager will typically decide, does it go in discussions or promotions. Sometimes some of the groups can show job openings. So, some of them will show events. So your strategy can be either to post, but before you even post, I would say your first strategy should be to listen. Find the groups and just go on there and listen to what they're talking about for a while before you start posting. And that way you'll know what to post, what's proper to post in that group. I am wired to email. It's info@smallbusinessct.com. Absolutely send the question via email. I'll be connected to it for the remainder of the call. info@smallbusinessct.com, and I will ask that question for you. And let me know if you'd like it to be anonymous or not. And my email is pretty quick, so generally I can ask follow-up questions with Sandra if need be. So I know that
Colleen,
we have heard.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Good.
Oh, wow. Hi, this is Kim Ferrary.
Oh, good, Kim. How are you?
I'm well. Hi, Colleen. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Kim.
I sent you an email. Your profile is so killer. It's amazing. And I've been a student of LinkedIn for a while, probably more a student than an expert. But my question for you is that when I look at Small Business Connecticut, Colleen's company page, I don't know if it's me, is it my browser that I'm using, but many of her posts have pictures that are missing.
I'll go check that. I think it's your browser because it looked fine on mine, but I'll go check it.
Yeah, so I was wondering if there were any tricks about that. I know that there are times when, say, for instance, when we were building a company page when I was with my prior company, we had to, optimize for all browsers and mobile and everything, and I didn't know if there was some funky thing, I use Chrome, but, I know a lot of people don't. So is there a best browser to use?
Well, let me just say thank you for that comment. Let me just say one thing about LinkedIn. It's a very finicky site, first of all. It's very finicky. And what happens one day might be different on another day. I will say this on the photos, and it's nothing to do with the browser. What happens when you put a blog post in or you grab a URL and you stick it, whether it's a personal update or a company update, LinkedIn will grab the image, all right, and you cannot control that. Once in a while it will give you a choice of one or two, but typically it will pick the photo that it wants to use. So it's very frustrating. It's different from Facebook, which has a little bit easier in that regard. So but what you do, the process when you are making an update, whether it's a company page or a personal update, is you copy the URL, you paste it onto your update, right? You have to wait a few minutes for it to optimize, and it will typically show the image if everything's working right. And then I go on to the top where the update is, and I take off the the unnecessary. I keep just the image and the story and the link, which is at the bottom, and I take out all the text that's on the top because you don't need that anymore. And then I'll write the comment on the top. So we'll be showing this. Yeah, we'll be showing this on August 5th. For people that are there, they'll actually see that. But it's really not hard. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you.
I don't know if this helps, but I just pulled it up, and I'm actually using Chrome, and it looks fine to me. So I don't know if that helps.
But maybe it's fine. Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't know. But thank you, Sandra, for looking into that. Okay, I have another question from a member. How do I post a blog on my profile page so that it shows an introduction to my profile page underneath my name? Oh, I know the name.
So I think I just described that. So when you do a post and you've done a blog post, the person, as it's going through the home feed of your connections, they can either click onto your profile because your profile's there, or they can click onto your blog post, right? Or if it's a company, let's say it's a company page that does it, and let's say I put a post on Post Road Consulting, and then I like it from Sandra Long, the person has a choice of clicking on the blog post, clicking on my company page, or clicking on my personal profile. It's all there, clickable, linkable.
It is interesting because I think I'm trying to connect the question to what you said and then why it came through. So I pulled up my profile page, and and I don't even know how I did this. So what is the difference? So I post blogs all the time, but there happens to be one posting this. If you pull up my profile, it'll say posts, and there's only one of my blogs there, and from June 2nd. So what's the difference between how I did that blog and how I generally post my other ones?
So it may be, so there's two ways you're posting content on LinkedIn. So you're either, there's not more than two ways, but let's say you've got a blog and you copy the URL, as I said, and then you clean it up. That's one way. Or if you are using LinkedIn Publisher, which is what I've been using since March, so some of my blog posts I'll put on other sites or on my website, and then I do the copy and URL. But a few of my blog posts I post through LinkedIn Publisher, and those will always show up on your profile. So if you look at my profile,
where is LinkedIn Publisher, Sandra?
What's that?
Where is LinkedIn Publisher?
So LinkedIn Publisher, you have to be. Only some people have that right now. And they decide, this actually just came out in March. If you remember, like last year, they changed LinkedIn Today over to Pulse, and so there's like they started with 500 influencers, people like Barack Obama, and Richard, Branson and Bill Gates and Jack Welch, all those type of people are blogging on LinkedIn, and those were the 500 original influencers. And then LinkedIn made the decision in the beginning of this year to extend that to everybody on the platform eventually, and they started just with, I don't know if it was just with premium members, but you can apply to be to publish through LinkedIn. So anyway, so I started in March, and that means that my posts are saved on my profile. So I've got, if you look at my profile, you'll see there's 3 of them that are there, and they'll always be there. And so as I keep adding posts, they'll accumulate there. So if you're really into writing and developing your brand, I recommend you do the LinkedIn Publisher blog posts. There's better, you can get picked up, so one of my posts got picked up by LinkedIn Pulse, which is their big publishing program, and so it had incredible views, likes, comments. So they'll pick some of the ones that they want, and they'll publish it. It will go beyond your contacts and connections. It will go to thousands of people. So it's something that you might want to think about. I'll definitely talk about that more in the fall with tips and everything. But yeah.
Okay, wonderful. What other questions are out there? Okay, I have a couple more that were emailed in. Here's an interesting one. And actually, I've had this one too. I have a company page with a logo, but the logo doesn't show on my personal profile. Is there an easy way to fix this?
Okay, yes, there's a super easy way to fix this, and I see it pretty much every week. So this person has a company page with a logo, but it doesn't show up on their profile. So what they need to do is they need to go to Edit Profile, and you go down to where your experience section is, where your company's name is listed. You take out your company name, and which seems silly, but you take it out, and then you re-enter it, and you see that there'll be a drop-down with your company, and then you save it, and then your logo will appear. So when you think about it, it's because probably the person set up their maybe they set up their personal profile in 2009, and then they set their company page up in 2011. Well, that's why it never got linked. So you just take out your company page, put it back in, and pick the drop-down. You'll find the name of the company, and you'll be fine. It's real easy.
Great. So have you gotten any real business from your LinkedIn presence or activity? We might have answered this a little bit, but...
Yeah, so I know you said that's happened to you, but I've had strangers contact me because they saw me on LinkedIn. I've had people that I knew from 20 years ago, 15 years ago, that knew me in another capacity, but because I'm pretty active on the platform, so they see that I post. So some of those people from years ago will say, "Oh, let's connect," and then as far as we meet up or we get on a phone call or whatever. So I've got people contacting me about wanting to train their sales team on LinkedIn, or they want to learn more about LinkedIn. So that happens all the time. The other thing is people will tell me that they look at the recommendations, so they don't even have to bother calling. If you've got good recommendations on your profile, it just makes your sales process that much faster because people are checking your profile to see who's recommending you. So it definitely helps get business. It's not the kind of thing, any social media, it's not like you're going to get on it and that first day you're going to get an order. It takes time, and you're really developing relationship and credibility and a presence, and people are more comfortable with you over time, and then people will reach out to you. And I also teach people how to do the sales prospecting, and we'll talk about that in the fall, is how to pick out those people that you want to reach out to and how to do that with the proper etiquette.
So, Sandra, this kind of gloms on here, but a question from Jenny Castle. I get a ton of unsolicited requests to join people's network. These people are complete strangers to me. I've been writing back, politely asking if we've worked together before in order to decide whether or not to accept the request. What do you think about these unsolicited requests?
So it does happen. It happens to most of us, and I think what you're doing is a good strategy, Jenny. I would say I get requests, and what I do is I always look at the person's, I don't just decide, I always look very in-depth at the profile of the person and try to remember, how do I know them? Where did I meet them? And sometimes I'll look at them and say, I don't think I met them, but maybe they worked with me 15 years ago, and then I can figure it out from the profile. Or I'll say, oh, we've got 7 people in common. These are people that I know and I respect, and that's a lot of people. And then I look at the profile, and it's somebody that I think I would want to know, and then I might connect with them. And I'd probably send them a note. I'd say I would connect with that kind of person, and I'd say, oh, thanks for the invitation to connect. I see we have 7 mutual connections. I'd like to meet for coffee sometime. Because I always try to take whatever's online and turn it into a real live offline meeting opportunity. So I think what Jenny's doing is fine. It sounds like she's probably looking at the profile and she's not sure, so she's then going and asking the question like, how could we work together? That kind of question is good. You have a choice. You can I'm sorry, you have a choice. You can ignore the person, or you can answer the person, or you can accept. Those are different strategies you might have.
I'm a pretty open networker. So if you want to connect with me, I'm generally just going to accept you. But I always follow up with a phone call or a meeting with that person, because I feel that if they're my LinkedIn profile, I should at least have a conversation with them. That I should at least have some kind of dialogue with them. I want to be an open networker, but also there's so many people that say, hey, Colleen, do you know this person? And so I want that opportunity. What I love about what they just changed with LinkedIn, Sandra, is how you can put your notes right in on their profile now. I love that, how to see that person who's brilliant. But what was really interesting is somebody actually said this to me last week. They said, well, beware of blah, blah, blah. They're trying to get you to join their group because then they'll have access to all of your connections and be able to, and I thought that was kind of an interesting warning.
Well, so I think when you are, this is a big conversation about connections and strategy. I actually think that you should not be a total open networker. But there are people that do that. There are people, and they're called open networkers, and they have 15,000 connections. Usually those are recruiters. I think you should be somewhat discriminating. I love your strategy, Colleen, where you connect and then you meet with them. That's really great. I think, though, that you want to look at anybody who's inviting you. You do want to assess their profile, because there are people that are really fishy out there. So they might have no connections or 2 connections. They have no picture. They have no description, hardly any description of what they do. And I'm very leery of that. I would never connect with somebody like that, because I want to know that it's a real person. It's not just, someone who's, with social media, there are false profiles. Very few, but there are some, and I don't want to. So I want to make sure I'm connecting with a real person, with a photo, with a good description, with a reason that I'm going to connect with them, and that we have something in common that we can grow on, whether it's mutual connections or like similar businesses, or they're in the same town, or they worked at the same company. Those, I want to have something. I don't want to. If there's nothing at all, it's pretty hard for me to agree to that.
That's so funny that you said that, because there are definitely people that I'm like, well, I don't know, there's something fishy about this. And what has been really interesting about that is that's how I know about this whole international thing, because I happen to know a few people who have gotten jobs internationally because of this. But there's a lot of people, I agree, 100%. You have to have commonality there. Hey, Sandra, our next question from a member is, what are the reasons why I should pay for a premium membership on LinkedIn?
Oh, good. I get that question a lot, too. So premium account. There are different types of premium accounts. There's some that are major platforms that LinkedIn sells to organizations, like recruiter platform, Sales Navigator. Those are major platforms that they'll sell to a large company, and that's where they get their revenue. They also have individual premium accounts. So there's different ones. There's ones that are, that are sort of business focused, recruiting focused. But the basic business premium account may be worth it if you're pretty good and you're using LinkedIn on a regular basis, and you've really you're really actively using it. I do see people that pay for the premium account and are really not going on there and using it. So I wouldn't, you want to make sure you're an active user of LinkedIn. So it gives you more visibility. You can see more. You can see more. For example, who's viewed your profile with a regular account. They just changed this. With a regular account, you can see it's either 5 days or 5 people who just looked at you. Whereas with a premium account, you can go back like 90 days. You can get more, when you search for people, you can get more details, more information, right? The other thing that was kind of cool that LinkedIn just did about a month and a half ago is they gave the premium users like this new cover photo background shot, like cover photo, which they didn't used to have. So that's really nice. But I see people with premium accounts that have not used that. So that's a new feature. But eventually that's going to be rolled out across, but they roll out some of the new features to premium users first. So I'm a premium account user because I'm on there all day long and I use every feature to the max. So that's why I do it. But I try to tell people, get good at the free first. Make sure you understand it, you're using it, and then upgrade to premium if it's something that's working well for you.
That's awesome. I have a little bit of a comment that somebody sent in. It's really funny, but I think it opens up some really good dialogue too. So the comment that one of our members just sent in is, I worked with a guy who was a really nasty piece of work, liar, and cheat, and yet he had dozens of references. I refused to endorse him. And I think that brings up some really good dialogue around, I know people endorse me all the time. And I'm like, gosh, I never even worked with these people. Why would they endorse me? Or how do they even know me to endorse me? And that's where I put a lot more stake in recommendations as a business owner, as a networker. Those recommendations are really important to me. But, weigh in. I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, so that's a good conversation too. The reason that's happening is LinkedIn is asking people, sort of an auto endorsement. Will you endorse Colleen for a small business or whatever? They're putting that out in front of somebody. So if you're seeing those, they're just happening thoughtlessly. It's because LinkedIn is trying to get the engagement up. When I teach my networking classes, I teach how to properly do endorsements. I don't agree with the way you're talking about. I teach people to do the endorsement when it's part of the relationship. So somebody does you a favor, someone helps you with something, then you go and endorse them. That's the right way to do it. Or when it's like a pat on the back. So it shouldn't be false. It should be authentic. And as far as the person who wrote the note to you in email, I know that can happen, that somebody that you maybe you don't think much of, and they have recommendations. So it's the same thing with, if they're looking for a job, and the people are going to have their referrals of people that like them. So you just have to, you don't have to endorse. You're not forced to endorse anybody. But it makes you think, with everyone, you want to you definitely use their LinkedIn profile, but it also makes sense to look deeper to get to know that person, whether you really want to work with them. So
don't you think the strategy that LinkedIn has kind of devalues the whole endorsement piece of it? I mean, I quite honestly, as a business owner, as a networker, I don't put any, unless I look at two things around endorsements. Do they fill the page? Is it all the way across? Do they have more than 10 or 15 in their top categories? And then I skip right to the recommendations and read those.
Yeah, so there's different opinions on that. I think there were a lot of people that, especially when it first came out, that were very much against the endorsements. I like them I believe if they're used properly. I think they're fantastic, and so I think people are getting better at using them. At first, like I said, they do this auto endorsement, and most of the people who are doing that, you're getting an endorsement, you don't know them, is because they don't know how to use the feature. So, but when you're really using the feature, it's very effective if you're using it properly. So I like it because I know how to use it. But so it's confusing to people. I mean, obviously, a recommendation is always more worthwhile because it's a written recommendation with that person. So that is going to be your number one to focus on. If you have a choice of what you can ask for the written recommendation.
Thank you, Sandra Long. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Talk to you Thursday. Bye. Thank you for joining us.